Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. And I do mean in the world because my amazing co host is not in the US today. Um, Welcome here to Criticality Live, where we cut through the bullshit and get to what really matters. Um, it's been a crazy, crazy week. The markets are being twitchy, AI is accelerating faster than policy can breathe, cybersecurity threats aren't slowing down. So we are happy to have you here. And always, you know, big shout out to our sponsor, Secure Nation, because without them, we couldn't do the things that we want to do. Um, with that, Kayla, what are you doing on the literal other side of the world?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne, Australia. Got here Tuesday morning. So I left Sunday night from Boston around 6 p.m. and got here around 10:30 a.m. Tuesday. So I missed Monday completely. Screwed up my Duolingo and everything. I'm very upset about it. Um, but I'm here for a panel session that I'm doing with Commvault, their Shift conference. So, discussing AI and the future of security in the space. So really looking forward to it.
All right. Well, enough about where we are in the world. Let's talk about why you guys are really here, our guest. So you can buy an AI tool, you can buy licensing to AI models, but you can't really outsource readiness. So the real question comes down to, for those who are adopting AI first, is who's prepared and who's preparing the people to survive it. So today's guest is one of the few leaders in the space in the country who are working at that level. Dr. Kollin Napier is leading the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network, connecting education, government, and cybersecurity industry to build a statewide AI network workforce strategy from the ground up. He's a PhD, AI and cybersecurity expert, and someone who's quietly, providing innovation happens wherever leadership decides it will. So, welcome, Dr. Napier.
Hey, good morning or good afternoon, good evening. Kayla, since you're on the other side of the world, not sure what your time zone is there, but thank y'all for
It is,
having me. Look forward to the conversation.
it is 4 a.m.
4 a.m. Oh gosh, should have rescheduled that then.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. Dr. Napier, I appreciate you being here because honestly, people with titles like Director of Statewide AI Initiatives or PhD Computer Scientist are kind of rare. And, we kind of make assumptions that there was, perfectly straight lines of how you got there. And I've learned over the course of, a few months that we've done this in my career that it's almost never a straight line. So before we talk about artificial intelligence and workforce strategy or where all this is going, I want to kind of begin with the beginning. What's the version of your origin story that people don't see on LinkedIn?
So I am a Mississippian born and raised. I love my state. I've seen a lot of great things happen in my state and also some not so great things. But I'm glad to see as I've, gotten older and progressed through not only an academic pathway, but a career pathway, there's a lot more um, opportunity being presented to the state, not only in terms of economic development, but of course, workforce development, because we can't have one without the other. So, throughout my adolescence into high school years, and I'm a community college graduate and going through that and university, I've had the opportunity to engage not only at a, higher ed level from faculty, staff, students, but also community levels and more. And throughout that progression, you've seen technology continue to grow and expand, not only software and hardware, but the challenges and the capabilities that are centered around things like cybersecurity, data analytics and cloud, or even now AI. And so, as I was educating myself in the space, I tried to be a sort of a servant back to the community and the people, and just having the discussions about, where things are, where they're going, what's the need in general. And so, and going through all of that, that sort of landed me in the unique position I'm in directing this statewide initiative for Mississippi. But it really all started just with a passion for technology at the end of the day. And so with that, I think technology's only so great. You got to have the people, operating it and implementing and adopting it as well. And so we just have to ensure that there's sort of a both and approach, as we continue to make investments and grow on that infrastructure technology side, that the people are there to support it and to utilize it.
Yeah, I love that you brought up community colleges. I too am a product of community college, and I'm actually getting ready to start my doctoral program. So I love seeing folks who have made that transition through what is often seen as a less than experience in community college and rolling into higher ed and becoming the folks who are leading the space. And I have particularly fond memories of Biloxi, Mississippi. I spent time there for my Air Force career at the lovely Keesler Air Force Base, both all after Katrina. So seeing it rebuild over the course of years was truly amazing, and how resilient the folks in Mississippi truly are.
Yeah, and now, so going through the community college space obviously gave a great opportunity to explore what a career is and could be. Now, I mean, you talk about it in middle school and high school, obviously through career exploration, but when you get into the community college setting, it's more of defined pathways that can lead directly to a job versus that transition into a 4-year university, right? And I was ready to go into the workforce once I graduated from community college, but I had the opportunity to take my knowledge, take the courses and credits I had earned up until that point and transfer it and go for a more advanced understanding in the realm of computer science, specifically for my background, more so on the programming side versus the networking. But it, in general, CS is a great major, program focus because you get a little bit of everything. It's very theory focused, but you also touch on software engineering, cybersecurity, and so much more. It's almost a catch-all, but in a good sense. And I'm still in the community college setting. That's where I work now at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, which is where this statewide initiative, Maine, the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network, is housed. And so I still get to be involved in this space, not only from a student and faculty standpoint, but also in engaging in the community and taking my knowledge, my expertise, and then skill sets and the evolution of what AI is and is continuing to become, and embedding that back into possibilities for the region. So not just, I'm currently in the city of Biloxi for where my office is, but for the entirety of the Gulf Coast, and then replicating that up towards, the Hattiesburg area, to Jackson, to Starkville and the Delta and more, and making opportunity for all. AI for all is sort of our initiative here. We like to talk about, and so just breaking down barriers there.
That's fantastic. So you mentioned, you made this decision to choose to pursue a PhD, which I think we all know is not an easy button for any of us. And at that time, what problem were you trying to solve that made you commit to that level of depth?
So it was never in the game plan by any means. I was, I can say I was satisfied at the community college level to go out and have a full-time career. Not that I wouldn't have gone back to earn, advanced degrees, but I think there was a sort of a drive in, building things to do good, right? So particularly when we think about software engineering or programming, there's almost infinite amount of use cases out there in which you could develop some sort of program or script or task, not only for your own personal benefit, but also for your organization or specifically your department or family or friends or whatever. And just getting that skill set and expanding my mind on possibilities, given different systems, programming languages, all of that, it just kind of provided a drive to want to learn more or do more, right? Mm-hmm. And so at the time, I transferred from junior college to Mississippi State University, which is one of our flagship R1 institutions in the state. They have a great computer science program, and I'm even jealous now. It's grown so much, even in the last several years since I've been there. But it provided, more opportunity to not only kind of learn the foundation and skills or perfect those, but also take a dive onto the research side of seeing what is the cutting edge, like things that are not on the market yet, but are being in that R&D, research and development standpoint. And so that added a lot more drive to want to be part of that exploration process, see things that are working, see things that haven't been looked at yet, right? Which is what led to my Ph.D. and dissertation research in the area of AI plus cyber. And so I think they're just seeing the possibilities, just had a lot of drive to it. And of course, I like to joke, I picked the worst time to do it because I had a full-time job at the university working. I just got married, just all these different factors of life, right? And I decided, hey, a PhD is going to be something great to pursue. It all worked out in the end, but it didn't come without the stress for sure. But I have to give thanks to my dissertation director and his, persistence on me about just not giving up. There's more to it than that, but that's the general sort of communication there of, look, you're doing something great. You're publishing peer-reviewed papers that's validating the work and the research you're doing. Let's keep this process going, and it'll be here before you know it. And next thing I know, I blink and it's done. I'm walking across stage, and then that opened up my opportunities a lot in this space about things to pursue. Like, again, this role I'm in, I think having that PhD expertise, the commitment there and the research value and all of that, just added value overall to allowing me to take such a position, right?
Yeah. So kind of following up on that, was there a point in your career where you were almost pulled in a different direction rather than pursuing this kind of AI path? And what made you switch to and stay on this AI path versus, doing something that was more traditional, like a CISO role or doing, typical computer science engineering?
Yeah, and cyber was kind of my first love, so to speak. It has been and still maintains being a critical priority, across the world, especially across the U.S. And the cyberspace is ever evolving. Anything from a 0-day to all of these vulnerabilities we've known about for a long time, and just trying to find a way to mitigate it without opening up something else, so on and so forth. So just kind of almost the cat and mouse game there was very appealing. And so I wanted to go into that route. And at the time, in terms of program offerings, there were courses dedicated to it, but there wasn't a very well defined pathway, which they have now. And again, that goes back to the jealousy. I wish that was available at the time. So I just took more of a focused approach on the software engineering aspect, which led me to become more familiar with like Python and Python packages and the whole PyTorch and Keras and all these different modeling tools, within the area of artificial intelligence. That led me to sort of teeter one way from the cyber to software, now to AI, which, can do a combination of the three, which again is what led to my research standpoint. But I think just keeping an eye on the general perspective and availability of what's happening also led to some conversation there, and just being persistent and staying educated, like outside of the classroom, outside of the research side, reading articles and postings coming out from the industry side. And again, there were many opportunities I looked into in going to work outside of academia, for industry specific roles. And I just kind of kept getting pulled back within the academia side. And so not necessarily in a professor type role where I'm in front of a classroom, all semester, but something where it's like a general educational tool set where, as things continue, rapidly evolving, how can we ensure people have the foundational, fundamental, critical, essential skills they need to be successful. And that pays dividends, going forward, not only for the individual, but, their career pathway, and then, of course, for the state of Mississippi in general.
Yeah, and speaking of the skill sets and career pathing, was there anyone who saw something in you before you saw it in yourself?
Oh, absolutely. There, even before college, in high school, I was very much engaged with the band program. I was a drummer, still a drummer at heart. Even getting directives, having those sort of deep, meaningful, almost, counselor type conversations with people like that very much helped shape and mold my perception on what I want to do when I get older. And it wasn't necessarily like, you need to do this career, you don't need to do that career, but just a general mindset of things to take into consideration. And it goes back to the sort of the saying of the world is yours. There's a lot of opportunity out there. What are you going to choose to do with it? And so there's so many people from high school to community college to university to even now that continue to shape and mold the way that I view things, or prepare myself for things, or think about things. And I tell people this too, just because I have a PhD doesn't mean I know everything in the world. I definitely don't. I'm always learning something new every day, whether it's talking to someone or reading an article, AI or not. Take technology out of it, but just somebody's worldview and their perspective helps me, better understand ways to view things, and also get out of tunnel vision. That there may be one way I'm thinking about something when the reality is I'm overthinking it, or I'm underthinking the process there. So there's a long list of people to thank, and it continues to be, just a key element of what's happening and shaping my day to day.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the band. I was in the band. I played clarinet, and my oldest daughter was a percussionist as well. So bless you.
No, that's great to hear. But yeah, percussion is I'm going to be biased and say percussion is just such a great pathway to go on, because you learn just so many different instruments.
Yeah.
Beyond just a singular sort of snare drum there. And so it's just incredible, the sort of articulation going from your mind to reading music, and then your hands and everything. And I think that really, having that opportunity to have some extracurricular, not just activity, but really thinking and memorization, and being able to change things on the fly, like that sort of setting, that I believe helped a lot just in a general life
Yeah,
pathway, right? And so again, not telling
absolutely.
people they need to go be a drummer, but I think it really
Yeah,
helped shape kind of my process, how I process things, and how I go forward in a lot of ways.
absolutely. No, I agree. It's a cognitive engagement, is what it is. So
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I found a lot of folks that are in IT and cybersecurity have some kind of music background. I did choir when I was in high school. My wife
Oh,
played French horn. My oldest daughter did French horn. My two youngest ones did choir. So it was kind of a mix between us family wise. Um, but kind of thinking about that, you're building something really, really unique in Mississippi, in an area that's not super known for technology. And I empathize with that, being over here in the boot state in Louisiana, where we're trying to build our Silicon Bayou. So people outside of this region kind of underestimated us a little bit. When did it kind of click to you that geography wasn't going to limit what you wanted to build?
And in answering that, it goes way beyond the work I'm doing, of course, and anything we're doing with AI. A lot of this has to go back to our education system. And in recent news, you may have heard or seen the quoted Mississippi miracle, the things that are happening within the K-12 setting, as well as the commitment from the state's perspective in developing that workforce side, specifically, and providing opportunities for learners, traditional, non-traditional adult learners, regardless of your background, regardless of anything. If you have a willingness to learn and work, then we have a program for you, and we have a need for it, from employer demand. So there's a lot of work being done, not only through the governor's office and the legislature and our Office of Workforce Development, Accelerate Mississippi, and so much more, but it's the growth mindset that's being presented here. And a lot of what you're seeing today in terms of, let's take economic development, whether that's a data center related to AI or just in general expansion of existing employers in the state of Mississippi. A lot of that doesn't just happen overnight, right? It's been a growth mindset of, hey, we're going to commit X amount of dollars towards infrastructure to have things like shovel-ready sites, and so much work that our Mississippi Development Authority is doing there. And so I think it's just been a general, leadership mindset across the state, across all sectors, higher ed and state government, K-12, and the public, private, business, and industry, to want to do more. We're tired of seeing Mississippi at the bottom of these lists, right? We're trying to show people that we're just like everybody else. We're doing great things. We're building great things. We have a mindset for that, and we just want to continue, addressing challenges not only that are present in the state, but also these global challenges. And Mississippi is open for business, as the governor likes to say. And we just want to keep on that momentum to continue being that newest hub, whether that's specifically for technology or, in making sure we continue to be the experts in things like agriculture or lumber and things of that nature there. So growing out the areas we need to, but also mastering those that we've, been the top of the game for a long time, embedding newer technology and workflows and processes. And so there's so many people, within the public eye or behind the scenes that are driving that for the state.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Here over on the other side of the river in Louisiana, we're kind of having a very similar journey where we're very much being invested in from a technology standpoint. We have a meta data center that's being built over in Monroe. This week, they just announced a massive AI data center from AWS. It's going to be built here in my area in the Shreveport Bossier City to the tune of $12 billion. So it's awesome seeing all these big companies looking at, these areas like Louisiana and Mississippi and going, there's talent, there's pipeline, and there's resources to be utilized in this area.
No, absolutely. And I know there's been a lot of public commentary and pushback on things, whether it's, primarily focused on the data centers or otherwise, but, that growth mindset is going to take, some changes such as those. And again, when it comes to things like that, it's not like somebody saying, hey, here's $20 billion and we just say yes, right? Like there's a process of permits and environmental quality and assurance there to ensure a lot of things are being done. Now, I don't sit in a position that I'm approving such things, of course, but in my conversations with those within the state that are doing so, again, it's very much a commitment back to the state to grow. And it also, when we allow things like that, whether it's the state of Mississippi, state of Louisiana, whoever, when you're showing you're quote unquote open for business, right? You're showing the outside world that you are willing to negotiate at the table. You're willing to bring business and opportunity to your citizens, right? and it shows that you have an appetite to want to engage and do more. And again, it's not just always bringing in brand new business, but it's ensuring that the businesses that have been here for years or decades also have the opportunity to expand, because they're already embedded in the communities, right? And you want to ensure that they are succeeding both financially and just within their area, and providing opportunities there. So there's a lot going on, and I'm glad to see, the commitments from different states like Louisiana and Mississippi, and even from the federal level, to continue driving a lot of this momentum for the citizens to have opportunities in this space, and that redesign of what the workforce will be. Because when we talk about education, for example, and this is echoing a lot of what Governor Reeves in Mississippi says, is, we're not preparing people for jobs of the last 50 years. We're preparing them for jobs for the next 50 years. And that starts with a commitment in changing our educational system and offering short-term, workforce programming to meet that immediate demand. It's taking a general look about how we are approaching K-12 education, and seeing the buildup there, not only when it comes to AI, but just in general. What are the skills necessary, today and going forward, that maybe we've looked over or have not taught up until this point, and making them embedded at whatever age or whatever grade? That's up for debate depending on, the topic at hand, but it's just ensuring that success going forward, where we're not just sitting back and going, oh, well, what we've been teaching for, what my parents learned is the same thing I need to learn type thing. No, there may be foundations of it there, yeah, but the general, learning and hands-on skills and career and tech programs are critical and essential now and going forward.
And I think that ties really nicely actually into a question that we had in the chat from Justin. He said, I've learned that with how the AI landscape is moving, there is really no getting ahead of the curve with AI. So my question is, what are you doing or looking at to stay in the curve?
So absolutely agree with that. There's no way we can get in front of the AI momentum. One thing I like to say in response to that is we can absolutely stay parallel with it, right? And to be able to do that, and this is sort of the mindset of the state, and in my position, we have to partner with the industry, the people that are driving this, the people that are creating the technology, producing these new features and capabilities, and have them a seat at the table. Because if we're just relying on these public news posts that come out, well, we're kind of setting ourselves up to widen that gap in terms of what's occurring, right? But if we can bring people like Amazon, AWS to the table, or NVIDIA or Google, whoever, and get their perspective, and maybe get some inside baseball about, where things are going or what they see as critical and essential, then we can move faster in the space. And one thing I want to mention too is that while the tools will change, the features and the capabilities will change, that foundation of it will not. Like the fundamentals will not. The cybersecurity posture, like there's just general things everyone needs to know, right? Now you may have specifics of cyber that change on the daily, but the foundation will always be there. The same things there for artificial intelligence specifically. And so that's how we're staying, not ahead of the curve, but in parallel with the curve there, as we continue to advance, and just keeping, an open mindset about not looking towards the next 5 or 10 years in the AI space, but the next 6 months to a year. What's going to happen? What new models, what new capabilities are out there, and how can we shift in our, our directive of a framework, our fundamentals, to ensure it's the latest and greatest thing there, right? And so I hope that answered the question there. There's a lot of factors at play, but the critical components of that will not change at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. The CIA triad will always be the CIA triad. when I talk about the fundamentals, is just all the tech and surrounding data changes. So I think that's a really good point. So Dr. Napier, one of the things that stood out to me listening to your journey just now is that at some point this does stop being about individual achievement and starts to become about responsibility to communities, to educational institutions, et cetera. And because you're building something at a statewide level, leadership isn't theoretical anymore. Decisions are starting to affect communities, employees, students, entire futures. So I kind of want to shift us into a discussion about leadership, not the LinkedIn version, but the real version. You're leading collaboration across universities, industries, government, et cetera, the three groups that don't always play nice in the sandbox or move at the same speed. What has leadership taught you about alignment when everyone has different motivations and incentives?
Yeah, and I will say there's no perfect solution here. It's a day-to-day challenge, but transparency is a big part of that. Just being able to come to the table, everyone having a seat at the table, coming to the table and just laying out their perspective or their game plan and just seeing where we all are. And in general, that's being done to avoid duplicative efforts, right? Looking for partnership, looking for collaboration, because while we can do a lot of things siloed, we can do so much more together, right? And that's really what's made the initiative of Maine, this driver for AI in the state, work and be successful. Is people being transparent, being part of that, what I call continuous feedback loop, hearing from the students, hearing from the community, hearing from higher ed, from industry, from state government, and seeing where we want to take this, right? Now, that's one challenge. The other challenge is it's always changing every 24 hours, basically. But from a leadership mindset, I think it goes back to some of the stuff I mentioned towards the beginning of, opening up and being able to listen and comprehend and understand before speaking, right? And I think, that almost sounds just super easy, right? Like this is obvious, but there are many cases that doesn't always occur. And so I also, understand that while I may come into a room as a quote unquote AI expert, that doesn't mean I know everything about the particular challenges or opportunities related to workforce in general in the state, right? So I have to sit and learn those things from those experts. I can provide my perspective, my expertise, and then find that common ground between them, right? And so I think the good thing that's being shown through this initiative of Maine is that, there's a lot we can do, because I'm sort of this statewide convener of, look, I need our Department of ITS, our state department, to come in. I need somebody from the governor's office. I need somebody from higher ed, somebody for K-12, like bringing these people together towards a common sort of question, curiosity, goal, and needing them, telling them I need them to execute on this, right? Like there's only so much I can do, so much this person can do, that person can do, but when we're in alignment and we can have that transparency, that communication, then we can see it through, right? So that way it doesn't get bottlenecked, it doesn't gets lost in translation with the 10 million other things trying to be executed on. And so yeah, I think that's just a key critical thing, is that ensuring, we teach these, and I hate the term soft skills, but we teach these durable life, people, career skills, but we don't always effectively, utilize them. So I think, if we can just maintain that opportunity to critically think and communicate and just problem solve together, that is a win for everybody. So a lot of leaders in the room and a lot of perspectives, maybe some arguing here and there, but definitely the commonality of a goal, especially in the state of Mississippi. It's hey, what are we doing this for at the end of the day? We're doing it for the state, right? So we all come together on that front and then proceed.
So I love the fact that you talked about the continuous feedback loop, and you are building a statewide AI initiative. AI is one of those terms that brings up a lot of feelings. So there had to be some folks who were extreme skeptics. So what were they worried about, and how did you address those concerns to kind of help get them on board?
Yeah, and it remains true to this day. Even I've been doing this a little over 2 years now. There's still fear, there's still unknown, there's still skepticism. And so you almost just have to look at who your audience is, and really it's being able to articulate anything from technical to non-technical, or just being able to debunk some of the myths or other aspects there. So let's take one specific audience, for example. So because I'm in academia and higher education, the immediate pushback is, well, students are going to use it to cheat, right? And that's from all these different departments, all of that. And so one of the perspectives there is sort of, let's take all of these instructors, for example. Let's take all these people in higher ed. Let's put them in a room. Let's talk about all these different tools and the way they could use it, right? Hey, you could use Gemini for this. You can use ChatGPT for that, content creation and curriculum and assessments and blah, 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 blah. All these things to make your life more productive and efficient. We're not taking them out of the loop, but we're giving them sort of that agent or assistant to help. And they love it. They absolutely love it. And then I say, well, great, I'm glad you love it. Too bad you can't use it because that would be cheating, right?
Got them.
And they're perplexed because they're saying the same thing to the students. And that's not meant to be a, sort of a gotcha kind of moment, but it's meant to be more of a thinking process of, all the efforts and times we're spending on trying to ban it or catch students cheating or just all of this. How can we better spend that time to rethink how we're actually teaching and embedding this into different programs, or more specifically, the general topics, things like mathematics and ELA, English language arts, and more. Because the reality is, for the education side, if we're teaching that next generation of students that are going into the workforce, we want them to be marketable and competitive. And if we look at the reporting that's out there from all different sources talking about this shift in companies investing in AI and wanting people with AI skills and knowledge, not necessarily a PhD in AI, but just those foundational skills, and we don't allow our students to obtain those, and then we're not setting them up for success, right? And so there's just a lot of communication. I've touched on it before. I'll keep kind of hammering that message. Communication is key in all of this. And you'll see me, I post on LinkedIn a lot of times. I'm engaging with all these different audiences because I'm breaking down, getting to the substance of, why this is important, right? It's not just because it's become a buzzword and it's sort of a catch-all term. It's because it's here and it's moving so fast, and we have to sit down and have a conversation about it, even the challenges about it, even the limitations, but ensuring that, we understand, first off, it's been here for decades, right? But now what we're seeing is that generative AI revolution where anybody can access it at any time, anywhere in a conversational manner. And so, with a lot of the pushback, with a lot of the skepticism, it's just addressing it head on, head first, not in a confrontational manner, not arguing with anybody per se, but just having a discussion about where their fear comes from. And because AI is in such being provided in such an expedited way, that fear increases exponentially. And so there are many cases people don't know how to enter the space because, oh, though there's 50 different chatbots out there and there's a new model here, new model there. But when you take a step back and say, okay, breathe. Have you even interacted with it? Do you know where to start? How can I help you start? Making it important for them, I think helps calm some of that fear. Again, I know there are challenges. There's still things we don't know, that are yet to be determined. But I encourage, whatever audience I'm speaking with, legislators, students, educators, take the time to do your due diligence and educate yourself on it. I'm happy to do so in the time that we're together. We have resources available to you, but, check out these resources, check out this media, whatever I can do to really help provide information. Because at the end of the day, I like to say, we don't know what we don't know. And when something changes like that, and it's sort of being pushed on us in some cases, then there's the resistance factor of the human psychology, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a fantastic segue, like right into my next question. So there's like a lot of communication coming down from boards and executive teams, and leaders are feeling this like immense pressure right now to do something with AI. So what mistakes are you seeing that organizations make when leadership moves faster than understanding?
I think that the mistakes are letting the fear direct you. Oh, we see a competitor of ours who, are publicly stating they're using AI, or we know they're using AI or whatever. Hey, we're just going to go write a blank check and say, we want that too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. But do you understand what it is? Do you understand your data? Do you understand your governance structure and your cyber posture and all these things that sort of come into play, unfortunately after the fact, right? But can you answer these simple questions up front? Do you know who has access and authorization? Do you know what you want it for? So I think in some cases the fear can drive that perceptive change that needs to occur. But when I engage in the business and industry side, just communicate with them and ask them, have you thought about this? Have you had questions about this? Have you even piloted, done a proof of concept, or experimented with this in any manner whatsoever? Or are you just jumping headfirst into the pool? Because I don't want you to do that. I want you to get your feet wet, test the temperature of the water, see if this is right for you. Because in many cases, whether it's in Mississippi or external, I think people just want to dive into AI and AI is going to solve everything, right?
It's FOMO.
Well, there's many cases you have challenges, you have real world challenges that AI doesn't need to be a part of. It may assist in some capability, or it may be a full-on opportunity to deploy an agent or other capabilities. But do you even need AI for this, or is it a simple workflow change? So it's a lot of that's happening, I think, and that's led. I've read some reports. I don't know if it was MIT or other stuff about these sort of AI initiatives from a business perspective not succeeding. And I think a lot of it has to do with that front end, sort of that preliminary prerequisite conversation or evaluation of skills, infrastructure, cost, and more. Mm-hmm. And since that's not being done, then you don't see it through, right?
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit, because we've talked about leadership and some strategy, but at the end of the day, AI is either it works in the real world or it doesn't. Right now, there's a massive gap between what people are promising AI can do and what actually organizations are capable of deploying. So let's get a little technical on this side. What's real, what's hard, and what most people still don't understand. So from that perspective, and where you sit, what's the biggest technical misconception that leaders have about AI capabilities?
I think in general, and I'd say a lot of it they think's plug and play, right? That I can buy a business license to whatever chatbot, and it's going to resolve everything. Because I saw a YouTube video of some guy, doing it or saying it was going to, right? And again, it kind of goes back to what I mentioned a moment ago, so I'll try not to be repetitive, but really taking a hard look at what your problems actually are, and is AI even need to be part of the conversation there, right? And so I think part of it too, I'm trying not to repeat myself from what I was just saying here. I think it's anything from ensuring you have the right or appropriate data, you have the right infrastructure, whether that's on-prem or you're doing a cloud, software as a service type thing, and just ensuring it's a return on investment standpoint, right? And that goes back to the encouragement of sort of the piloting and experimentation and even running things locally. I mean, just as much as we're seeing innovation in the proprietary space of AI, there's so much happening on the open source side, like very niche things from visual models and beyond. So I think the mistakes just come in there of, swallowing the food there before you have a chance to chew it almost. And again, it's a lot of kind of just what I just said. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of struggling to give a different sort of view on that.
Oh, no.
But it's more or less within what I just said. I just don't want to repeat myself sort of word for word there.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I guess people assume that AI innovation requires like these massive tech hubs or hyperscaler environments and all this extra power. From your experience, though, what infrastructure actually matters most to make AI ecosystems sustainable?
Well, let's try to break it down into 3 different areas. Like when we talk about, let's say, a classroom setting, for example, you can have a device, laptop, a desktop, whatever, and not have to have a whole lot of other infrastructure in place to be able to develop and deploy sort of locally, right? Versus maybe a institution or an organization needing, I think more so people lean on the cloud perspective, because you take out the need to have to upgrade your hardware. Maybe it's a 50-50. You have a little of both, a hybrid there, where you have some on-prem stuff, some cloud stuff there, and taking into consideration, the sort of utility cost, if you will, the cooling side where it's needed, but primarily the electrical side. And I continue to see varying reports in regards to electrical usage there. To my understanding, the electrical usage is no more than what we see just in general of watching TV or something else. I think it may depend, what sort of infrastructure modeling or task you're doing at the end of the day, but I think it's very much the conversation's in line to everyday things we already do. So it's nothing more extreme there. Now, when you think about the data center standpoint, you have to take into consideration the infrastructure that is going to be utilized for it needing to already hopefully be in place to stand up, but then having a way to scale that as things develop over time, right? And in my reading, again, I'm not a data center builder by any means, but they are one of the most efficiently constructed pieces of infrastructure in the world, right? Like they're optimal in terms of their water cooling and workflow their HVAC and other components. And so, of course, there needs to be considerations in terms of, what you're doing and sort of a management process, like oversight in terms of your usage capabilities there. Like, it's not something we just want to sit there and run if we don't have to, from a classroom or from an organizational standpoint. Now, a data center will have to run 24/7 because of obviously the upkeep of services and other things of that nature. But I think it just goes back to the conversation of human oversight and judgment there, and back to the responsible and ethical usage and ensuring, we're using it effectively, but also efficiently.
So, if we sat down 3 years from now, what technology trend would you think that most organizations are going to have issues with that they should have taken, a hard look at and seriously sooner?
My immediate response would be AI agents, sort of, defining an agent to go off and be doing a task autonomously. Still maybe human oversight of a process before it's executed, or the output of said execution. Now, as I'm saying that, I do know that the organizations, whether it's Microsoft, OpenAI, or more, are making it easier to set those up, right? Like they're making it pretty efficient in terms of just like how you can create a custom GPT. You can go in there and do a configuration, you can prompt it, whatever. I think that's going to become easier to do, like from an organizational, like flip a switch almost, right? But I think in general, it's gonna be continue to be centered around the governance talk. And governance is sort of transforming into kind of this catch-all term that includes, obviously the cybersecurity aspect and more. But I think just having your different islands, so to speak, in which you are deploying AI and how that's affecting the operations of your infrastructure or your Azure, or whatever setup you have in general there. As we go to expand more, I think we're going to see more, say, utilization of sort of catch-all tools, or not catch-all, excuse me, like more niche tools, which maybe you could argue in the area of AI agents, it kind of fits that bill there. But that's my immediate thought. I know there's much more to come, and it will come over time, but I think that's probably the number one thing on my mind at the moment. As we start shifting away even from things like large language models to this idea of world models or other aspects being put out there. I know there's research arguments we sort of hit our limit, so to speak. So, what's that next cusp of model availability and how that can be applied, within an organizational setting?
Yeah, I think you hit on one of the key points is we're having a lot of arguments on where human belongs in the loop. At what point should the human have some interaction, particularly with agentic AI and agent-based AI? And I think to your point, that's going to be the point we go back and go, I should have looked at that and built some policy around that a lot sooner.
Yeah, and I'll say too that when you think about AI or AI agents specifically, you think about job redesign going from task execution to now more so judgment and oversight from the human standpoint, right? And I think that's where a lot of shift is happening or will happen, to where, again, whether that's before something gets executed, the human pushes the button saying, yeah, this looks good, let's proceed, or before that output, gets transformed into whatever manner the human is seeing that process there. And I have yet to experiment with the open claw phenomenon that's happening right now, but I think we're starting to see some of the possibilities, but also the challenges of sort of this 24/7 agent environment being done, where hey, it's not stopping even though I'm telling it to stop, kind of thing. I know there's been a lot of I like to browse X a little bit and see all the different sort of trends and stuff happening, and so yeah, I think it's just ensuring, what is that, to the point mentioned, what does that
Mhm.
human in the loop look like for a particular role, position, career path, duty, because as we all know, AI is not a perfect system by any means. It makes mistakes just like a human does. So, where do we as humans fill that gap to ensure things are sustainable and at the end of the day, don't create vulnerabilities or other cyber concerns there.
Yeah, I agree with you on this, and it's one of those things. To your point, we'll look back on and go, should have done something sooner. But I can't believe it. We're like really quickly coming up on the end. So we always end Criticality Live with a set of core questions, the ones that give our audience those practical, take it with you insights that they can use right away. So my first question for you on that is, if you could fix one thing about cybersecurity industry overnight, what would it be?
Workforce. Having enough people to fulfill the roles needed, to provide that security layer, whether that's federal government, whether that's, private industry. I know we do a lot of great training, not only in the state of Mississippi and places like Keesler Air Force Base and beyond, but I think just ensuring we have a workforce that is not only knowledgeable up here, but is knowledgeable when it comes to the keyboard side, right? Being able to practically apply that.
All right. So my question is going to be, what is one practical, technical, or culture, or any combination thereof, thing that you wish that cybersecurity organizations and organizations as a whole just stop doing immediately?
Oh gosh, I might get in trouble for this one though.
Just blame me. I'm the unpopular opinion guy.
That's a hard one to think about. I would say, it's funny, we still live in an environment in some cases where there's no compliance or governance defined in terms of policy for an organization or for this and that. So it's almost like, the customer's always right kind of thing, where the end user can do whatever they want. And so I know there's some cases where, the cyber exists, but it's not really existent. So I'm hoping to stop that trend, even though it shouldn't be a trend. I've seen it.
And for our listeners who want to follow your work or reach out to you, what's the best way to connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there, about daily. Encourage anyone to connect with me on that front, or they can go to the main website, Mississippi AI Network website, which is mainms.org, MAINMS.org, or email is main, @mgccc.edu. Happy for any connection, follow-up questions, anything of that nature in regards to the work we're doing in the state of Mississippi. So I'd welcome it.
Great.
So, Dr. Napier, do you have any final thoughts you want to leave with our audience on, AI, cybersecurity, building, resilience for 2026 and beyond?
I'll just say, and I recently spoke to a group of students and echoed the same message, but don't think of AI as a career. Think of AI as a capability layer across all careers, right? And it's something that is becoming more critical and essential to our workforce and day to day and the next generation. So encourage people, whether that's institutions, take the time to embed it into your curriculum, or whether it's students, hey, go out and make sure you're staying up to speed through all these. There's so many resources out there right now, whether it's through what we have in Mississippi through Maine, or whether it's on YouTube or beyond. Just stay up to speed, see the trends, see what's happening, and be part of that next generation that not only understands and utilizes it, but also can be a voice of responsible and ethical usage.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Criticality Live. Huge thanks to our guest, Dr. Kollin Napier, and an even bigger thanks to you for hanging out with us and being a part of this growing community of leaders who are done with the buzzwords and are ready for real conversations. If you got value out of today's episode, please hit that follow button, share it with someone who you think needs to hear it, and drop us a review here on LinkedIn, Spotify, or on our on-demand YouTube channel. It helps us more than you know. And of course, a huge shout out to our sponsor, Secure Nation, for powering this conversation. They're helping organizations defend smarter, respond faster, and make cybersecurity something that actually works. Go check them out. This has been Criticality Live, where we cut through the noise and get to what really matters. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.